Boston, January 15, 1919. A wall of dark syrup, 40 feet wide, moving faster than a man could run, tore through the streets of the North End. Horses, wagons, people, all swept away in seconds. It looked like a flood, but it wasn't water. It was molasses, hot, thick, and deadly. By nightfall, 21 were dead, more than 100 injured, and the city was left asking, how could something so sweet turn so deadly? To understand that, we need to go back to a cold January morning, just 2 months after the Great War had ended. Before refined sugar became cheap and common, molasses was everywhere: candy, rum, baking, even medicine. But its biggest demand came from something darker: industrial alcohol, used in weapons and munitions during the First World War. The Purity Distilling Company, a branch of the United States Industrial Alcohol Company, saw an opportunity. Store more, move faster, make more, so they built a tank, a steel giant, 50 feet tall and 90 feet across. It could hold over 2 million gallons of molasses, enough to fill 3 Olympic swimming pools. It towered over Boston's North End, right beside homes, shops, and a children's playground. But there was a problem, one hidden in plain sight. The tank wasn't tested properly. The steel was too thin, the rivets too small. Some workers said they could hear it groan when the wind picked up, a low metallic moan echoing across the harbor. From the very first day it was filled, molasses leaked through the seams. Locals noticed. Children would run to the base of the tank with pails and cups, scooping up the syrup that dripped down the sides, laughing as it stuck to their fingers. When workers complained, management didn't fix it. They painted the tank brown to hide the stains. No engineer's inspection, no pressure test, no safety check at all. Just paint and profit. It stood there, massive and silent, a sweet-smelling bomb ticking quietly above the North End, waiting for the day it would finally explode. The morning of January 15th began like any other, but Boston was warming fast, from bitter cold to over 40 degrees. Inside that massive steel tank, the molasses, once thick and sluggish, began to expand. Pressure built silently, minute by minute. Around 12:30 p.m. nearby workers heard a sound that froze them in place. A deep, metallic groan, long and low, like a ship straining against its anchor chain. Then came a sharp crack, then another. Rivets began firing off the tank like gunshots. The tank tore apart in an instant. A torrent of molasses, 2.3 million gallons, exploded outward with the force of a bomb. A 40-foot high wall of syrup crashed through the North End at over 30 miles per hour. It tore buildings from their foundations, twisted steel, flattened homes. Freight cars were hurled like toys. A police officer on duty was thrown across the street and pinned against a wall. Horses and wagons vanished beneath the wave. The elevated railway, Boston's pride, bent and buckled under the impact. People tried to run, but the syrup was faster. It filled the streets, thick, heavy, choking. Those who stumbled were swallowed almost instantly. It was like moving through glue, one survivor said. You couldn't breathe, couldn't scream, you just sank. Firefighter George Leah raced from the nearby Engine 31 firehouse. He and his crew plunged into the sticky flood, wading chest deep, calling out for survivors. Leah pulled one man free, then went back in for another. Moments later, the firehouse itself collapsed. 8 men were killed inside. Leah was one of them. The rescue would stretch for days. Men chopped through hardened molasses with axes, searching for any sign of life. At night, lanterns glowed against the dark syrup that coated every street, every wall, every window. When the roaring stopped and the echoes faded, Boston was silent. In that stillness, the city began to understand what had just happened, and how a simple tank of syrup had unleashed one of the strangest, deadliest disasters in American history. When morning came, the North End looked like a nightmare. Streets once filled with life were buried under a crust of hardened syrup. Homes splintered, wagons crushed flat. Even the air felt heavy, sweet and sour all at once. 21 people were dead. Among them were children walking home from school, laborers eating lunch, teamsters, and firefighters who never made it back. More than 150 others were injured. Cleanup began before the shock had even worn off. Firemen sprayed saltwater from the harbor, but the molasses clung stubbornly to everything: walls, cobblestones, even the skin of those trying to help. One newspaper wrote, The streets were sticky. The air was sweet, and the people of Boston would never forget that smell. For weeks, the scent of sugar hung in the air. Workers tracked syrup on their boots into streetcars, homes, and offices across the city. Even Boston Harbor turned brown. Fish floated belly up, and gulls circled the murky water. Months later, when summer came, locals swore they could still smell it. That faint, cloying sweetness carried on the breeze. But the story of the Molasses flood didn't end in the streets. The real reckoning was only beginning, not with shovels or hoses, but in the courtroom, where Boston would demand answers, and America would begin to rethink what safety really meant. The lawsuits came fast, more than 100 in total. Families, shopkeepers, and city officials all demanded answers. The United States Industrial Alcohol Company denied everything. After 5 long years of hearings, testimony, and finger-pointing, the judgment finally came. The company was found liable, ordered to pay nearly $1 million in damages, the largest settlement in Massachusetts history at the time. Today, the site of the disaster is quiet. Langone Park sits peacefully by the waterfront, right where the great steel tank once loomed. Children play where Molasses once raged. Joggers pass the spot without a second thought. A small bronze plaque stands there, easy to overlook. It reads simply, "On January 15, 1919, a tank containing 2 million gallons of molasses exploded, killing 21 people." That's all. No drama, no bitterness, just a quiet remembrance. But beneath that calm surface lies a powerful truth, a reminder that even the sweetest things can turn deadly when care is ignored. The Great Molasses Flood isn't just a strange story from another time. It's a mirror, reflecting the choices we make today, the shortcuts we take, the warnings we overlook. The sound of that groaning tank still echoes through history, a whisper, a warning, that small cracks, left unattended, can bring down giants.